My today's topic is about usability. I've been talking about usability for the last 15, 20 years in meetups and communities and conferences. And I'm back here again talking about the same topic once again. The reason is that in Europe, we are shifting more to open source software from commercial software. And how many of you have tried Nextcloud? What do you think? It's good tech demo, right? Experimental, yeah. Your unlucky position, your company runs it, right? Or is using it as a main tool. I'm sorry about that. So when you go to these open source projects, usability tends to be an afterthought. And I'm here just to repeat the thing I've been saying for a long time. And mobile community and mobile dev communities kind of don't have the same problem. I think we can thank Apple for it, because when iOS and iPhone came out, it pulled the design mindset and the design thinking into the platforms. And Android, while early, a bit iffy, caught up very, very quickly. And Android apps are now on par with iOS apps, no doubt. So most of here, probably you don't need to even listen to this. So if you don't care, go get a beer. Anyways, my argument is that if open source software is only for elite or proper nerds, it really has failed. It's not freedom, right? We talk about open source is freedom, it's freeing us up and so on. If people can't use it, it's not freedom. It's just elitism. On the other hand, open source did win the battle, right? We have Linux is everywhere. Android, okay, and AOSP is everywhere. I'm careful what I say here. Blender, if you tried the latest version of Blender, it's amazing. It's used by Hollywood creators. It's there. Firefox, it used to be cool. I think Firefox is still good. Still cool? Yep. What about the AI stuff? Okay. Anyways, but there's no doubt that Firefox and Mozilla kept the web open when Microsoft tried to close it, right? And it's still now fighting against a different opponent. The strength of open source is the same as its kind of biggest weakness, in my opinion. All these open source projects start by developers. They build something for themselves. They have a problem. They try to solve their own problem. They think this is cool. I'm going to put it in GitHub or Codeberg, wherever you put it. And that kind of automatically leads into a situation where it's built for developers. It's built for yourself. It's really cool because you can build it very quickly, but it's also a problem because now nobody else can use it. In open source project, UI is a side effect of a database or backend or API or libraries you use. It just happens to become a thing. That's the thing that you interact with the cool code base you have built. If you compare the way open source software comes to be versus how commercial software comes to be, commercial software buys the usability. They put money first, user research. They figure out who's going to use it, how it's going to be used, prototypes, whatever, and then they code and build it. Now, commercial software has their own problems, but arguably, Google is much easier to use than Nextcloud, unfortunately. Now, the same thing happens in there, but when you go to open source, you just write code. Oops, I need a UI. So I say I like what put down in there. So commercial software buys the usability. In open source, we have to intentionally make it happen. We have to invest into it intentionally to make it happen. These are things I keep hearing when I talk about open source communities about usability. The most common one is usability is an opinion. It's just some designer sitting in a room and telling you how it should be used and how it should work. Just an opinion. That person it's not correct. Or the other opinion I hear quite often is it's just selecting colors and icons. I joined a German telecommunications operator in 2011. Creates some of the biggest email software used in Germany. And I went to the first day as an Android developer into the office saying, so where's the designers? That we have a guy in Karlsruhe who makes icons. Some of you use this software. It's different now. That was a long time ago. But that's kind of a thing. There's this strange like a misconnection in there. And the third thing that happens all the time is, how can there be bad usability if I can use it? I know exactly how it works. Look, I can do everything I want with this. Everything else is just, they're just bad users. It's not fault of the developers. I'm not blaming the open source developers for this. Everything is geared towards difficulty in usability. Try to type in a usability bug in issue tracker. You can write text there, for sure, you can add screenshots or whatever, but they're all geared towards stack traces and libraries and all of those things. And pull requests are done for features, not for, hey, this doesn't feel right. One thing that was really big plague in Android early phase, and if you go to F-Droid and download software from there, it's still a problem. It's basically just people adding options to fix problems. Let's say you don't know if you want to have this much padding, you don't know if you want to have this color patterns, rounded corners or whatever. The open source solution is I make an option. Now you have a massive options menu. You are the professional, you should be making decision. The only thing you're doing, it's a cop-out, you're making the user to make the decision. Now you make your users your designers. Don't do that. That's not the right way to go. The other thing that happens in software, our own projects, we get reports. You Google Play, somebody goes, I need to have this button. I need to have this thing. And then you go and build this thing. Have you served the user? You served the user, but you didn't serve your users. The problem is that users report symptoms. They don't report problems. Now, what you have to do when you get a feedback of, your usability is bad or something like that, you step back, figure out what is the user trying to do with my software, and you design a solution to that problem. You can just ignore what they say. Be polite, saying, good, working on it, don't worry about it. But what you shouldn't do is just take the user feedback as such. They're not designers. They're probably not even developers. So think what they are trying to solve. In 2007, I talked with a friend who was a Debian maintainer. And I just installed Debian. That was an era when I was really trying to figure out which Linux distro is the one I want to use. Don't pay attention, I'm on Windows now. But, so I went through Mint, Mandrake, all of those things, and I installed Debian. And I knew my friend who I was working with was a Debian maintainer. And the UI usability was atrocious. I couldn't figure out anything. And I went to talk to him, say, I can't figure out anything. They say, good. It's by developers, for developers, you should be understanding it. You should understand the source code. I thought, okay, fair enough. But then you shouldn't be asking for, you shouldn't have a problem, Ubuntu creating a usability layer on top of it and so on. Now, I actually don't have a problem with Debian. That's a fine thing to do. You have chosen your audience, you do your thing, but don't pretend that you're serving the users at that point. Get good is not a solution for usability problems. I like this term. We use this term MVP, minimal viable product, or we talk about let's build a minimal viable product. We should be talking a minimum lovable product with MLP. Minimum lovable product is something that users actually enjoy using, not just getting their stuff done. And you are not your user. If your user has to understand the code base to use your software, you have failed on abstraction. Your task is to abstract the functionality out from user's mind. This is the only thing you should remember from this slide, or this concept. If you don't remember anything else, remember this one. This will help you everywhere, not just software engineering. And this is nothing new. 90% of you are fully aware of what this concept is. We talk about mental models. User everybody, they have a model in their head when they see something. They think they understand how it works. If it matches the way it behaves, it's easy to use. If it doesn't, it's difficult to use. Let's take an example of a car. You jump in a car, you see a steering wheel. We all have this mental model. The steering wheel is connected to wheels, and they turn the wheels, and that's good. Now, there's some people in the audience that know that modern cars don't always do that anymore. What they do, they send the command to a motor that turns the wheels. There's no connection from the steering wheel anymore. But that doesn't matter, because our mental model matches the way it works. So we can use the system. We don't need to know how it works. Same thing about software. Think about it all the time. Your interface is creating the mental model, right? So whatever you're communicating visually in the interface, that's the one that is building the mental model in the user's head. And they try to press this button, they try to find the control somewhere, they try to do whatever. And if it matches the model completely, then it works completely. A little bit, it's better. If it doesn't match at all, problem. This is the thing. Mental models apply to many, many other things as well. But this is a good thing to think about. So for example, as a user, I want to send my stuff to the cloud, and then everything is deleted, and you're like, what? If the expectation isn't right, you have to build a user interface to make them understand what's going to happen. If you're going to delete the local files because they are somewhere else, make sure your user interface reflects that, for example. Other problem that people keep telling me, saying, oh, I need to care about security, I need to care about performance. I really don't have time to figure out this usability. Or it conflicts. If I make a UI that is good, then it's going to be slow and non-performant, whatever, animations, all of these kind of things. But think about the way that if your system is not easy to use, it's more likely users will make mistakes. That's a security problem. You create a security problem with users typing the password the wrong place, or doing something stupid with the software. I mean, users are never stupid. It's your problem if they do stupid things. Another concept. So are there any designers in the audience? Good, then I can talk about personas. Because persona is a concept that I like, but it's very kind of controversial in the design circles. Somewhat elitist circles, if you ask me. Some of them are wrong, some of them are right. Persona is a tool you can use when you're building software alone. You don't have to hire a designer. Persona is a concrete example of an abstract archetype. What this means is that you figure out who are you building software for. I'm building for teachers who are commuting 50 kilometers or longer. Well, that doesn't tell you anything. Now you're going to create Annette, who is 51 and lives in Weilheim, commutes to München, and doing these things. Now you have a real person you can talk about. And usually you take a picture. Now it's easy, you can generate a picture. You all have to take a picture that somebody who doesn't exist or somebody you do not know. Because you're going to be talking about this person as if they're not in the room. You can say, would Annette understand this? Would this person? And it changes your mindset of thinking about user interface and software design. Just by thinking about this person that doesn't really exist, but it changes the mind. And you can communicate in your team saying, who is this person, or this person, or this person, and so on. So you can pick a couple of personas. Remember, you can't build software for everybody. It's not possible to build software for everybody. If you build for everybody, you build for nobody. So if you pick 5 personas, you prioritize them and figure out who is the people who you're building for, and use them to talk about it. And if you have these personas created, now you can, one important thing about here, I forgot the last thing. Personas are connected to goal, user goal. User goal is another important tool for you to use. User goal is a description of what the user wants to do without describing a feature. So what the user wants to do. Good example from my usability course from back in the day in university is nobody ever wants to save a document. That was controversial back in the day. Now longer it isn't. If you used Google Docs, you don't actually want to save documents. You just want the document to be there. If you say, user wants to save document, you have accidentally designed user interface. Button, press, save, complete. If you say, user wants the document to be there when they come there next time, or they just want the user document to persist, you open to design a better solution for that, which Google did. And if you go back to LibreOffice and forget to save again, hate that. So now that you have personas and user goals, you can start doing things without paying any money. There's a tool called Cognitive Walkthrough. It's much simpler than it sounds like. Basically, you take a screen of your software, you pretend it's not you pretend you don't know the software, and you talk through how another person would use it. The Annette that we created in the previous one. How would Annette use this one? And you use goal instead of a function again. Here's GIMP, which is, I don't want to talk about GIMP, but this is the example. So I want to make the sky look less boring. And then you figure out every step. How would I do this? How do I know I did it? How is the feedback? You ask yourself questions. This doesn't have to take a lot of time or a lot of money. Other thing, this is a brilliant thing to do, and this is painful when you do it. You take your software, especially app developers, super easy. You go to a coffee place or hallway, pick somebody who hasn't been part of the project, give the thing to them, and ask them to do one goal. Do this thing. And then you look at them struggling, and you're like, oh my God. And then at first you think they're stupid, and then you realize you were stupid, you've created bad user interface. Now, the important thing here, do not go there and try to justify your UI. Don't go there saying, oh, but it's there, right? It's like right there. Don't help them. Until they get stuck long enough, you have to help them to get to the next step to understand the next failure you've done, and so on. Do not talk. Do not justify. It's not an argument. The user is right. If they can't figure it out, it's not because they're stupid. It's because your user interface didn't create the mental model they need to use so. Other trick, if you talk to people you don't know, so go to a coffee place, buy a coffee to somebody. Say, it used to be a couple of euros, now it's probably 5-10 euros nowadays. Buy a coffee, saying, I have software written by somebody else, saying, my friend built this software, and try to do this, but I want to see how you're going to use it. If you sell it your software, especially strangers, they try to be friendly. They try to say, oh, that's nice, I would buy this. Never hear from them again. But if you say, it's not mine, it's a friend's software, I don't think it's very good, or I think it has some problems, I would like to see you to use it and get the honest opinion out of them. That's a 5 euros of a pop, You don't have to do a lot of money, I guess. Have courage to delete features. More features you have, more difficult the software is to use. Not every idea you have to become a feature. We have this I think they call this chunks or whatever in head, and all humans have a limited number of things we can keep in our short-term memory at the same time. Some a bit more, some a bit less, about 7 things. If I just give you 7 random things that are not connected, you probably remember them. If I give you 10, you probably won't remember them. Same thing here. Think about the software. A screen with 7 features is probably doable, better if it's 5. People are able to kind of comprehend the system if it's limited size. Every damn feature in it, they will forget all of them. They won't use any of them. So figure out what you can delete. Again, you can use the persona, saying, would this persona need this? How would this persona use this? Have courage to delete. So this is it, basically. I don't really have much more to say. I have a couple of things after this slide. But if you have any thoughts or questions, I would love to hear what you think. And what is your experience with open source, either interacting with open source developers or helping them fix their problems or being the open source developer yourself? Any thoughts or any questions? I'm happy to answer anything difficult or easy. I'm not sure if I can answer them. I will try.